is becoming much bigger and much more successful than Uber or in that space. So, like, what would you say? Are these outcomes simply anomalies, or it's really built into the business model?
So let me say this. Number one, I'm sure everybody in the room agrees that innovation isn't owned by just startups, right? Or it's not owned by new age companies. Everybody innovates and evolves in their business journey. Now, having said that, let's actually take an example to address what you're saying. In my, a few years ago, I was part of a large incumbent telecom company, not in the region, outside of the region, but that's as traditional as you can get, right? So you got a telecom company that runs its own IT internally with its own resources. And I think this is about 2003, and this was one of the firms that got up and said, how can I run IT better? And in order to do that, they actually outsourced their entire IT to a large global system integration firm. Today, this is, no one would blink an eye on this concept, right? It's inherent to all of us. At that point in time, in 2003, 2004, for telecom, to actually pick up and send IT out was groundbreaking. It was actually a Harvard Business Case review on that deal itself. And I still remember comments from global telecom CEOs saying, in the telecom environment, you can't do that. You can't take your heart out, which is IT, and give it to somebody else and expect to survive. This firm not only survived well, but did exceedingly well. They're currently the market leaders in that space. So, what I'm trying to say is, whether it's a traditional firm or a new firm, innovation has no flavor, right? What they did there was probably largely business innovation rather than technology innovation. I don't think they were creating new products through that deal, or they were not creating new technologies through that deal. But they were just, they created a new way of managing the current technology set. They created a new way of addressing commercialization issues between IT and the bigger firm. So, whether it's a traditional organization or a new age organization, I think business innovation and tech innovation and those constructs will always go hand in hand. It's just way too intertwined to segregate the two. And let's take an example of a new company. Let's say a new age company, let's say Uber. Mm-hmm. It's not just the tech platform that's new, right? It's also their business model that's new. And the other way around, it's not just the business model that's new, but also the platform that they give is not only new, but it also evolves at a very rapid pace. So, it's very difficult to deal in those two things. And I'm actually a little wary over the years in looking at any solution through just one lens. If I'm looking for a solution to a problem set, I would typically want to see both the technology side of it and the commercial or the business side of it before I take a call.
Thank you, Akshay. Thank you very much. I would move on to Dr. Stephen Griffith. In your role, Stephen, you are sitting in the hub of all the innovations that are going around across UAE on the energy sector. And there is a lot of excitement in terms of how technology innovation is going to impact that industry. And there is also excitement about also affiliated industry of clean energy, smart building, and this morning there has been a lot of talk about that. In your experience, like if you can sort of shed light on what are the key trends that you see in that domain in UAE and across the world?
Sure, it was a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me. I think the energy sector is a very interesting one because historically it had been a sector which was not associated with much innovation. But recently we've seen a number of different trends, megatrends in energy, which are having a dramatic impact on the way we view the sector. In particular, there's four I'll talk about and then connect that over to digital, which I think is a very big trend which is influencing energy. In energy, many people here are aware that now we're seeing a greater diversification of energy sources. Going way back, there had been traditionally this dependence on, in some geographies, biomass, and then to more greater extent in Europe and elsewhere, coal, and then oil, and then gas. And then eventually nuclear came, and then we started to see large-scale hydro. And now we're seeing explosion of these more sustainable energy sources taking hold in the energy sector. So we're seeing particularly solar energy and wind energy having a major impact on the system. And this is a large trend, which I'll connect to some points about where innovation is happening shortly. The second trend is the distribution of supply has become much different. It was previously the case that we had centralized supply to distributed demand, and you would just essentially pay a utility or an oil and gas company to deliver you petroleum for your car or deliver you electricity for your home. Today, we're seeing the prior consumer of these energy products become the producer as well. When you've heard the term prosumer, this is having a major disruptive effect in the energy sector, and it's a trend to watch. The third one is a very important one, which starts to get even closer to the idea of what is feasible with the connection to digital, and that's the energy efficiency, not just on the demand side rather, but the supply side as well. The efficiency on the demand side, particularly important because we know that we cannot continue to supply more and more energy with a growing population, which is becoming increasingly affluent, especially with these different mentions of urbanization as a key trend. Efficient cities is a key important point. The fourth point, which also connects into some of the broader topics around where innovation is possible with digital, is the advancements in R&D, which are happening in parallel to all these mega trends or large trends in the energy sector. And so in R&D, the fundamental sciences of biology and material science, information science, has really taken off quite robustly as far as new platform capabilities and technology which allow innovation across multiple sectors. So at Masdar Institute, we're particularly excited about material science, but also the information science. The information science is very exciting because the paradigm today is that all of these different objects or these manifestations of the physical world are increasingly able to be connected to the information world. And this is happening through IoT, where simply you put sensors, which can sense many different parameters of a physical system, into the environment, and then you relay that information to a central system. You can store the data in robust ways, large scale today, and also analyze the data. And then with that analysis, you can start to understand what's happening in the world, and you can start to shape what is going to happen in the world predictably through the analytics available. And so in this physical world meeting the information world, you start to connect over to the energy world by seeing a couple key areas. And I think the really interesting areas for me, distributed energy is one which will connect to digital, but importantly, the buildings and smart cities, which Dubai is aiming for, as well as transportation, autonomy in particular, will be a big part of this convergence of the physical world, information world, and the energy world. And I will focus a little bit on a couple of those topics, not to forget, though, the oil and gas sector, traditionally very stodgy, so to speak, sector, just producing hydrocarbons. That's become quite sophisticated with IoT as well. And if there were an interest, we would talk for a long time about digital oil field technologies, reducing non-productive time, enhancing exploration, and improving the entire system of oil and gas production. The two areas I know that are interesting to talk about here, of the ones I mentioned, which are directly at that convergence, especially with sustainability, one is the buildings, and then in the cities, and then it's the autonomous transportation or smart transportation. The interesting thing with IoT and information science, the way it's connecting to energy in the smart cities and buildings, is it sort of is a changing paradigm of what one cares about when you're in the energy sector, when you start to see the way in which the building systems and the cities can start to relate to people. And I say this because when we've looked at energy in buildings, in a commercial building, for instance, we found that every year the cost of energy on a per foot square basis may be $3. And then you start to look at the real estate of that building, it's worth maybe $30. And then you start to look at the people that are working in the building, which are your core asset, and they're worth maybe $300 per foot square. So the question to an energy company is, should you be thinking about how you save energy and energy efficiency, or should you be caring about how energy efficiency, also the measures you take, can help the productivity of the people, the welfare of the people, and as Dubai would say, the happiness of the people. And that's the trend I think is exciting in the sort of the build smart buildings 2.0, smart cities 2.0, is you start to look at the ROI and the business case from how I can use parameters which influence energy, such as temperature, such as the ambient lighting, the sound around us, the overall environment, even the atmospheric concentration of different gases such as carbon dioxide and like, how do those impact the people in the building? When you start solving that problem of having the environment be optimally set up for the people by having a more comfortable temperature for the entire set of building occupants, by having the lighting optimal for the environment which they're in, you start to see that you can optimize those parameters together with the energy parameter and get a holistic system so that the person who says, what's my business case for energy efficiency in a smart city would say, well, you've just improved the revenue because the people are more productive, they're coming to work more because they're not getting sick, they're more comfortable here, they want to be here working, and jointly, because they are manipulating or providing a feedback, which the system, maybe machine learning or whatever the system may be in the IoT world you want to use, is able to say, okay, we're going to optimize the temperature for comfort, but also for the efficiency of the building, so that you have a set point which can improve the overall productivity and the energy profile. And so there are companies, which I've written some articles about, very interesting companies, building robotics. Their whole system is about allowing users to give feedback to the building system about how they are thermally comfortable. And when that building accepts that information from each user and starts to apply, we call it machine learning, but it's basically an understanding of how all the different people in the building want the building to behave over time. The building will self-optimize around the space in which they work. You typically can, yes, improve the productivity, but also say about 20% of the energy of the building. So it's not driving toward just the most sustainable building, it's driving about the sustainability from all the dimensions of the people, the social welfare, the benefit of the environment, and then the economics. On the transportation, which also links in, it's another very similar paradigm. Rather than focusing on the sustainable vehicle, the electric vehicle, the autonomous vehicle, for the energy itself, starting from the idea that you want better safety, you want to reduce the transportation accidents by moving toward increasing levels of autonomy, trying to make people more productive by being able to work in the vehicle when they're going to work. So as you have a full autonomy, that would be possible. Even on partial autonomy, you have less time in traffic because the system is more amenable to knowing where the car should be to avoid traffic. And right-sizing vehicles. So people, when they want transportation on demand, will typically get a car more appropriate size for the number of passengers, and that can save energy. But the question there wasn't about energy. It was about how you make people more productive, more efficient, more happy. The side benefit, which the research shows, is if you have, say, increasing levels of a smart transportation system going toward this vision of the autonomous vehicle, you don't even have to get to full autonomy to realize benefits of the right sizing of transportation, so the right number of people are in the car that comes to take those people somewhere, to have more directed eco-driving, so people going at speeds and adhering to the types of regulations in transportation which allow them to use less energy while they commute, and also seeing that there would be less number of traffic jams because people are more able to be in the right place at the right time using the transportation system. When that is all put together, energy in a light-duty vehicle would perhaps be, you'd be saving roughly maybe 40% of the energy from those vehicles. Those vehicles are typically about 75% of all transportation energy, with transportation energy is about a third of all energy consumed globally. So you can start to see it propagates by looking at the well-being of people and the comfort of people and then letting that propagate into how energy is impacted. In Dubai, there's a great opportunity because obviously Dubai has gone into an autonomous transportation vision. By 2030, 25% of all the transportation, or actually personal trips, would be through autonomous transportation, mainly public transportation and also first mile, last mile connection points when you're trying to reduce friction between modes of transportation is the Dubai strategy. And then clean energy and rooftop solar. All the buildings in Dubai are supposed to be having rooftop solar by 2030. That connects to smart buildings, which can then provide you the clean energy in an optimized, sustainable environment, and then ultimately using, in the final leg of this, the transportation to be part of that entire smart system, which gives you that entire flow of intelligence, which connects, I think, the ideals of the happy city and the big data to the energy system.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you. That was very informative, and I'm sure Dubai is all set to see the fast autonomous vehicle within the deadline. I'll move to Siddharth. First of all, congratulations, Siddharth, for winning the Disruptive Innovation Award this morning. We'll hear about your award and the initiative that you have taken. But Siddharth, as you're working around, healthcare industry, and you see that there is a lot of innovation happening around the globe on healthcare. So tell us first about your award and the initiative that you have taken, and then if you can sort of focus on what's happening around the world, especially in healthcare. Yeah.
Thank you, Kabir. Firstly, I'd like to say that it's a real pleasure being here, and I'd quite echo with what my fellow panelists have also said, Nadine, Akshay, and Steve, and they've kind of touched on important facets of innovation, which are going to be prevalent going into the future. Coming back to this award, I think we won it for disruptive innovation in healthcare. And as I walked out, I met this young girl who asked me, "What was your innovation?" And I told her it was around 3D printing. And then she asked me, "What is 3D printing?" I wanted to give her an answer which was perhaps a laymanish answer so that she can perhaps relate to it. And I told her, when my grandfather was alive, he used to write letters. Today, I mean, it's a fact that you don't find physical letters, you have emails. When I was in my teens, we had CDs and music cassettes. Music is being transferred digitally online. We are heading towards an era where actually goods can be transmitted from one place to the other digitally. So when I talk about 3D printing, it is, for example, you have some company